we're going to do regular motion tweening, shape tweening. We'll do some classic tweening with a motion guide. And then we'll also include a movie clip within all that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with selecting ActionScript 3.0. Here's my stage. I'm going to change this, my workspace, to classic. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to use a basic shape here. Change the color on that. So again, here's a boat. And then I'm going to create another layer, and this is going to be the ocean. Oops. And this is my boat. All right, so I have my boat, and I'm going to make this, first of all, before I animate it, I'm going to select it. So I can just click on it. This way you see the little sprinkles on it, means it's been selected. Or click and drag, and that tells me it's selected. So I'm going to convert it to a clip or a symbol. So I'm going to change it right now as a graphic symbol. Name it. All right, and there we go. Then the ocean, basically make it blue, dark blue. All right. So here's my boat. I'm going to make it go across. So very simply, I'm just going to move my boat to one end of the stage. Right mouse click on it, create motion tween. So that's your usual. Oops. And then we got to extend out the ocean. So I'm going to right mouse click or hit F5 to extend. If I right mouse click, I would just insert frames on here. So now notice it draws it out all the way out to here, right? So now that I have my boat on one side, I want to move it to the other side. I've moved my playhead to frame 24. Click and drag it to the other side, and there we have just regular motion tween. Okay. Now, so in terms of the ocean, basically, you know, I'm just going to change it again. If you remember, you're just going to grab, basically just drag down the segment on there, the line segment, just a little bit, and then we can hold on the Option key and click and drag to create some waves here. All right. So again, it's just moving back and forth. Now, we could basically have this boat follow the path here a little bit by just clicking and dragging and then moving the boat up a little bit. Then it creates a keyframe, then I move it down a little bit, and so on. There is the other way, though, where we could have just moved the boat a little bit and then modify this in terms of the path. Sometimes that works pretty well, sometimes it doesn't. Without the keyframes, it definitely does not work as well. Okay, so we could, you know, obviously do it this way. Now, the other way that I'm going to do this boat is basically using classic tweening. So now that I created this boat, if I go to the library, you'll notice that we have the boat right there, right? So it's a graphic symbol. Now, when I'll go ahead and drag the boat, let's see, I'm going to create another layer. I'm going to actually move this layer down. So I'm going to name that boat 2. And then I'm going to click and drag that. Actually, let's see here. I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to change it up in terms of just a little bit in the colors under the properties. So I'm going to select the boat, and then remember, under the properties, under color effects, we can change the color in it somewhat. Oops, actually that's the alpha. So I'll make it green right now. Just play with the red a little bit on there. So I have my boat, and notice that one. And let's change, actually I'll change it to, instead of boat, I'll change it to green boat. Okay, so it's basically just sitting there. Obviously here, we're not going to do the regular motion tweening, which I would right mouse click and select create motion tween. We want to do create classic tween. But before I do that, I need to set a keyframe. I'm going to set a keyframe on frame 24. To set insert a keyframe, I can right mouse click, insert keyframe, or I can hit F6, and it inserts a keyframe. All right, so now I have a keyframe in there, and I'll move my boat to the other side. But notice it doesn't animate, it just pops from one frame, from one side to the other, right? So to get the animation, I have to right mouse click in between those keyframes and select create classic tween. So when you do classic tweening, you'll see that obviously this color is light blue, and this is like a purplish color, and you have an arrow going through, right? So now the boat is going through, both boats are moving. Now what we want to do is, in this case, I want to have the green boat more, move in terms of the I want to create my own motion path that sometimes can be a little bit more complicated than using this path right here. And using the motion path, or the path that I draw, sometimes you have better control of it. All right. So to do that, again, it has to be classic tweening. So in terms of making it work, you need to have this boat right here, this second boat, needs to be in classic, a version of a classic tween to be able to do the guide layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the layer, not the frames or anything else, but the layer itself. Okay, I'm going to click on that, right mouse click, and add classic motion guide. So that indents that layer, and then you see this little icon right here that tells me that's where I'm going to draw my path. Notice there's nothing on there. It's an empty keyframe right now. So then I'm going to select my pencil. Let me bring this up, make this double column. So I'm going to go to my pencil, and then I'm going to, in this layer, again, I'm going to move it to frame 1. I'm going to click and draw my path. Now, I just realized it made it, straighten out the path. I'm going to do that. So selecting the pencil, I'm going to go down to the pencil mode and change it to smooth, so it's more rounded. So notice it's more of a rounded path. Oops, made a mistake. I did it on the green boat, on the classic tween layer. So again, I'm gonna, well, actually, let's see, I could just hopefully select it, cut it from there. Let's see if this works. Select the layer, and I'm pasting it. Paste in place, edit, paste in place. Okay, let's see if this works. So now, so I drew my path, I cut it, and I placed it on here. I could have drawn it on here. So I'm going to select this, make sure that this snaps right here. See that right there? Make sure it's snapping to that, to that path that I just drew. And you're going to go to the other end. Notice it's not snapped on there, and I'm going to make sure it snaps on there. Now you'll notice it follows a path. It's, it's bobbing up and down, as you can see. So when I test this out, command return, there's my boats going back and forth. Okay, let me change the background here. So I'm going to select the stage. I'm going to change it to a light blue. All right, so now the other thing I want to do is I want to orient the boat to the path. So I'm going to click on the keyframe in my classic tweening. Then I'm going to go to, if this tweening is closed, just click on the triangle to open it up and then select orient to path. So now the boat should follow the path a little bit more. And if it doesn't quite follow it, just sometimes you may have to rotate it a little bit. So notice the path goes down a little bit. So I'm going to lower the boat just a tad there. And it follows the path a little bit better. And then at the end here, also I might want to rotate that. Remember, using my free transform tool, select the symbol, or the instance, I should say. It's an instance here on stage, symbol in the library. And there we go. So test it out again. That's a little too fast, but I can change all that. I can click and drag out to 2 seconds. I can click and drag my motion tween. I can click and hit F6, or I'm sorry, F5, insert frame. So insert frame or hit F5. Same thing with my ocean. I'm going to just hit F5. All right. So now I got classic tweening and I have regular motion tween. So now it'll play out for 2 seconds or so, right? And it's looping. Basically, it's going back from frame 1 to frame 2. All right, so the other thing we did is we created some shape tweening. So I'm going to put clouds in here. I'm going to change the fill to white. I'm going to make sure there's no stroke. Now, it's important when you do shape tweening that you don't have strokes on your shapes. Okay, so create a few clouds here. I'm just going to create one cloud for now. So here's my cloud. And so I'm going to just right mouse click anywhere in here and create shape tween. And oops, forgot. Now notice if you get these little type of dashes on there, it means that we've forgotten, it's a broken tween and I forgot to put a keyframe. So I'm going to go to, in this, I'm going to go to over here and I'm going to insert a keyframe. Okay. So now notice when I insert that keyframe, there's no more broken dash, but I haven't moved it yet. So I'm going to select it and kind of not guess, but kind of think about where I want this cloud to end up. I want it to end up over here, right? So now it motion tweens, but it's not changing shape. Remember, we want it to shape tween. Notice it's green. So towards the end here, this is where I'm going to change the shape. So notice it changes shapes from here to here. Okay. Again, test it out, and we see it changing shape. All right. So that's your basic shape tweening. And again, make sure that you don't have any strokes on your shape. And you, by the way, it could be from, it could also change colors. So if you have it that it's white here, and at your keyframe you want to change that to a dark blue, like a storm cloud type thing, notice it does that also for you. Okay. All right. So the other thing we did was movie clips. And so in terms of just working with your symbol, keep in mind that anytime you change your symbol, it will also change all the instances that we have on stage. So we could go directly to our symbol. I could double click and notice it's isolated so that I'm in the editing mode of just my symbol, but then I don't have any reference to my background. So, but if sometimes that's better to do it that way, depending on how you're working it. Or I can just double click one of the instances on stage, but notice when I change one instance, it changes it on the symbol, it changes it here, it changes it any other instance that we may have on the stage. Okay, so keep that in mind in terms of when you're working with your symbols and instances. You make one change, it'll change it all anywhere else that it's there. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and add a mask. I want to change it to this color. Oops. So I'm in the by the way, I'm in my editing mode. I'm going to go ahead and create the sail. So I'm going to make a copy of this, holding down the Option key to make a copy of that, and I'm going to flip it. Transform, flip horizontal. Okay, so I'm flipping it here, and this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a movie clip of these sails, and I'm going to shape tween these sails within the movie clip. So what I'm going to do is embed, so notice I'm in the graphic symbol right here. So I'm in the graphic symbol editing mode, and then I'm going to convert these two sails into movie clips. So I'm going to select both of these. Now I only have the sail selected, I don't have the mask. So I've selected both of those, and then I'm going to hit F8, or you can go to menu, modify, convert to symbol, and then I'm going to select movie clip. I'm going to change it to sail. I'm going to click OK. Now notice in my library I have a boat graphic symbol and a sail, it's a movie clip symbol, and you'll see what that means in a few minutes. So notice now the boat is the sails are embedded within the graphic symbol. If I go to the scene, if you notice, if I test it out, both boats have the sail now, and the sail moves with the boat, right? Because it's embedded in there. So if I want to edit that graphic symbol, I'm going to double click on the symbol. Let's double click on the movie clip symbol. So I'm double clicking it, and now if you'll notice the cookie trail, we've gone from scene 1 to the boat graphic symbol to the sail movie clip. And here's where I'll do some shape tweening. Oh, actually, let me put a keyframe here. I'm going to right mouse click, create shape tween. So I'm going to drag this up like so. Oops, hold on a second here. I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so create shape tween. It's flipping it. Well, we'll work on it later. Anyway, so I'm going to insert another keyframe here. Right mouse click, create shape tween. And when I test it out, notice that my sails are flapping in the wind. And then when I pause it, you'll notice that the sails continue to flap. Okay, because it's a movie clip, it's independent of the main timeline. So this timeline only pertains to the sail. Notice it's playing up to about 10 frames. So it doesn't adhere to this main timeline right here. So it doesn't play out just through this main timeline. It continues to play when I test it out. You see? So basically, again, keep that in mind that it works independent. The movie clips work independent from the main timeline. All right, let's see here. So we got movie clips. We got shape tweening. And well, in terms of morphing, I'll show you that in another scene here. Basically, in terms of morphing, we can start. So that what we saw here in terms of the clouds was shape tweening, right? But morphing, you're creating a shape. Let me change that color of this shape here. So you have in morphing, it's, again, think of it as like the transformer. It goes from a car to, to a robot. And so here we have one shape to another shape. So I have this shape, rectangle shape, right? And then I'll go to frame 24 up to the 1 second mark, and then I'll insert another keyframe. So I can delete this right here, which I will do. Make sure I've selected it. And then I'll draw out a different shape. So I'm going to go to my polygon here, and there are options. I'll change this to a star. And I'll move it into a different position. So remember, the rectangle is here, and then I'll click and drag the triangle here. And again, I can change the shape or the color on it. So I have a shape from frames 1, or a rectangle from frame 1 all the way to frame 23, and on frame 24, I have a star, right? And if I again select create anywhere in between the keyframes, right mouse click, create shape tween, then you'll notice that we have the rectangle morphing into a star. Okay. So that's basically morphing. So you can try morphing if you want on your project also. All right. Yep, I think that is it in terms of what I wanted to cover here.